week been?
Not too bad.
Yeah, it's been good. Good to be back in the groove, doing a couple of pods again.
Yeah.
It's good to catch up with you boys last week.
Second one of 2024.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, last week was interesting catching up on world events and shit that's been going down. A lot happening in the world in just 2 months that we found out.
Kind of, it's been 2 months was last week, 2 months since our previous one. What went on?
Yeah, well, for those people that are getting back to us, I'm Rooster. We've got to keep on introducing ourselves.
Chris.
I'm Smithy.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We've got
You know who we are.
Yeah. But we're going to get stuck into some more health topics, And today we're going to start off with our first, which is an interesting one.
Do you reckon this is the most controversial topic in health that we've ever spoken about?
I reckon
it is.
Yeah.
No way. Seed oils and those kind of things are still people like,
Let me rephrase it. Like a lot of people have, me included, it's very hard for me to look at this from a fresh set of eyes. So for everyone listening this week, we're going to actually talk about nicotine.
I thought we were going to build it up a bit more.
So not smoking, not vaping, but the actual chemical
substance
molecule, nicotine.
Well, when you say controversial, Smithy, that to me is I haven't never really considered nicotine as a part of a health topic, other than negative health topics or references.
I'm exactly the same as you until. Well, actually, I looked at it a little bit when we did our nootropic episode last year. That came up a few times because a lot of people in the nootropic world use nicotine for its cognitive enhancing effects, which it certainly does have.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting, And then it was sort of kicking around in my mind, and then I kept getting these little things pop up in my world of people I follow, some of the more popular health influencers that I just seem to bump into online were sort of talking about it a bit and prompted me to have a look and chatted to you guys about it, and here we are, I guess. So
yeah. Well, there's a lot of brain benefits, isn't there? Like, in regard, and we'll cover them, I suppose, but with regards to dopamine release and all that, and
100%. Yeah.
So is the big issue on how we consume nicotine? Is that the?
Do you want to start with what is it?
What is it? So it comes from plants. So it's been used, get this, since 6000 BC. That's when man started cultivating it. And obviously history between 6000 BC and the current day is not continuous, but they know that's when they first started cultivating the tobacco plant. And pretty much every indigenous culture, sort of in the history of man, has used it and has revered it as a sacred / medicinal plant. Yeah. They definitely didn't go down to the store and buy a pack of Marlboros and choke down a pack of those every day, but they did use it on occasion for health or for ceremony.
So in its plant form.
So nicotine comes from the tobacco plant. So it's a plant alkaloid, and essentially it's just a chemical molecule like any other molecule, but it is naturally occurring, so it's not man-made.
I read somewhere that it's within the nightshade group.
So get this, nightshades, so like tomatoes, eggplants, contain nicotine.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
No.
That was a bit trippy.
That's why I love tomatoes so much. I might be getting a bit addicted to them.
So it's like...
So it certainly does occur exactly right, in the nightshade family.
Potatoes.
Exactly.
Capsicum. Yeah, it's I guess it's just a minuscule amount, would it be in those foods?
Absolutely, yeah. We're nothing like what you'll find in a dose of nicotine, I guess.
Well, I guess it makes sense. There's going to be small amounts of arsenic in apples and things like that. It's not killing you. It's not giving you a high. It's just
and also I think possibly the reason, I don't know, I'm just speculating here, what might be in plants is because in higher doses it's actually used as a pesticide. Yeah. So you can use it as a pesticide to kill insects. Yeah. So in the human body, and I assume the insect body, you've got your cholinergic system within your central nervous system. So you've got adrenergic and cholinergic, so like adrenaline, so sort of like sympathetic and parasympathetic. And within your cholinergic part of your nervous system, you've got nicotinic receptors, basically, which is what nicotine binds to. Yeah. But if you bind too much to them, especially in insects, it'll kill them. So you can use it as an insect. So maybe the plants use it as a defense mechanism, something like that. Where if they start eating too much of it, maybe they overdose on. That compound kills them, or at least sort of pushes them away. Yeah.
And going down the conspiracy track there, I read that the US government banned nicotine as a pesticide back in, I don't know, however long ago it was. But I guess maybe that was to, remove a natural sort of pesticide product into, your artificial sort of herbicides and chemical pesticides.
Yeah, imagine if you could grow a plant, tobacco, which is quite easy to grow, extract a natural molecule from it, nicotine, which can't be patented, of course, so everyone would have access to it at a very, very inexpensive price, and then you could use that to
as a pesticide,
get rid of insects.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well,
the other reason that this sparked my interest this week is because there seems to be a real attack on not tobacco but nicotine at the moment. So I was saying to you guys before we started recording, there's no ban on cigarettes in Australia or around the world. No one's banning smoking, which is undeniably terrible for human health. But there is currently a ban coming on nicotine in Australia. So a lot of people have moved to vaping, which I also think is very bad for you.
So
smoking.
So they want to ban vaping in Australia.
You won't be able to vape nicotine at all.
Yeah,
so I would argue smoking is extremely bad for you. Vaping is probably bad but less bad.
Yeah.
But it seems like the jury's out on that too, because it seems to accelerate a lot of the issues that you have with your lungs. So, you're getting emphysema, you're getting, because of the vape being a liquid, it's causing a lot of liquid on people's lungs and causing them a lot of issues earlier than...
And the nicotine's absorbed faster in vaping than it is a cigarette.
Yeah, supposedly, but that'll be all gone, so you won't be able to access nicotine.
So all these vape shops, all these Cloud9s and all that,
gone.
You just be able to vape floral shit.
Yeah, you know how they get the flavours. I got a watermelon, mango, fucking sorbet vape or whatever. Yeah, but it won't contain any nicotine. That sounds refreshing.
It's been pretty hot lately.
I know a mate that's going to be devastated when he hears about that. He loves his vapes.
They do claim to not have nicotine in them, some of them.
But
I think that's a bit of a misnomer.
But they haven't even gone to the point of, I understand they're trying to curb adolescent vaping, right? Because it's a big thing. Like every teenager seems to be. I saw the documentary on Juul and some of the other e-cigarettes that you guys probably saw, and it's probably quite addictive. So I get that they're trying to stop people who aren't smokers become vapors. But it seems like an extra step to me to the person who's smoked cigarettes for 50 years. Maybe they're using vapes, which the science seems to say is maybe less damaging. I know what you were saying and I agree with it, but I think it's probably still less damaging than choking down a pack of Marlboros or whatever.
Because the other toxins and chemicals.
Because the other toxins, 6,000 other toxins in cigarette smoke or whatever. You won't even be able to access that from a doctor come the 1st of March 2024. So it seems like, to me, an overreach, or a step too far maybe, but maybe not. We'll probably kick it around a bit today and see what we've come up with.
There's a lot of tax dollars to be made out of selling cigarettes for the government.
Totally, absolutely.
Maybe they're not getting that revenue through vaping. I mean, what's this? Why would they? If teenage kids aren't just vaping, they're also having cigarettes. And if you're really concerned about teenage kids consuming nicotine via smoking, then you'd ban both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I guess they are banned for under 18 cigarettes, but they can still get them.
Yeah.
So a lot of biohackers are using them for their neurocognitive benefits.
Yeah, which there are heaps.
It's almost like a little microdose of harder drugs, so to speak. They're not getting it from vapes. You can get them from chewing gum. You can get them from toothpicks. Infused in toothpicks. People hold them in their mouth.
Not in Australia.
Not in Australia. No. Suck it off. Can't really say that, can you? You suck the nicotine out of the toothpick. But those kind of things are ways that you can get it that is not in a vape. And I understand what the government are trying to do, because it is a bit addictive. Nicotine.
Oh, totally.
Sorry,
100%.
When I say a bit addictive, from what I can gather, it's highly addictive. The nicotine component. So I understand, banning it in vape form and whatnot, but is that how people will use it? Gum, etc.? Or is that going to be completely banned too?
No, so gums and sprays and patches will still be available. They're just infinitely more expensive than if you were a vapor and you...
Yeah.
Because there is a legitimate subset of the society who, you know, vape because they're addicted to nicotine. You know, old school smokers that have been doing it for a long time. And I think it could be a relatively inexpensive way for them to not go back to smoking, or use it either as a, you know, adjunct to cessation, or I can't get off it, but this is going to cost me $5 a week and arguably less bad for my health rather than, you know, spending $150 a week and whatever. So
yes, go ahead, mate.
Oh, but I was just going to say, but that's not really the part that interests me. The part that interests me is its utilisation, as CJ sort of touched on, in almost more like a microdose form for actually increased health.
That's what I think I was going to ask you there. So if you wanted to use this as to increase as a health protocol, would you use the sprays and the patches and that sort of thing? Is that how you would? Would that be the medium that you would have it?
Yep.
Because it'd be pretty hard just to go and buy pure nicotine, wouldn't it?
Well, it's impossible after the 1st of March. Because the government has banned it. Up till the 1st of March 2024 in Australia, you can access pure nicotine.
Right. So it will be only available via those other sort of things.
Yeah. So as I alluded to before, there's some quite well-known people in the health, longevity, biohacking space who are nicotine sort of advocates. So a guy we've referenced before on the show, Peter Attia, who's big into his Zone 2 cardio and big into longevity, and you know, he's written a book and he's got a podcast and things like that. So he himself uses it as a sort of cognitive enhancing, mood enhancing tool occasionally. He says he's used it for something like 11 years on and off. I think he uses gum,
gum,
you know, some of the cleaner delivery methods where you're not actually consuming tobacco, and you're not smoking it.
So is that when the gum, and you see baseball players chewing that tobacco?
That's chewing tobacco. That's actual tobacco leaf that they chew. So that's associated with like mouth cancers and stuff like that. But get this is the fascinating thing. So if you go on to our good friends at the World Health Organisation, they've got
big fans of them on the show.
Big fans. You know, call out to Klaus and the boys, Daddy Klaus. They've got a section which is devoted to, you know, your cancer scheduling. So you've got like a class 1 carcinogen, class 2A, class 2B. You know, so class 1 is like asbestos, I don't know, lead, you know, like the really bad, the ones we know, tobacco smoke.
Red meat.
Alcohol. Class 1 carcinogens, right? Then you've got your class 2A and 2B. Something like likely to cause and then possible to cause or something like that. So things like being a shift worker, being a firefighter, going out in the sun, eating red meat, pretty much anything you can think of is listed either class 1, class 2A or class 2B. Guess what's not on the list?
Cedars.
Nicotine.
Oh.
Not known to be a carcinogen. In any form.
Right.
So getting back to it. So it's some popular health influencers. So Peter Attia is a big fan of it, supposedly. Dave Asprey uses it for its cognitive enhancing effects. Both those guys claim to have been using it for about 10 years. Ben Greenfield uses it as a workout enhancer, which it does do. I've got some studies which I'll reference later, which shows it actually helps with strength and endurance in the short term, and also motivation because you get a dopamine hit.
Wow.
But the key thing seems to be microdose it and don't use it every day. Don't start, don't go and buy a 400 pack of nicotine gum and start chewing 20 gums a day. Because after a couple of weeks, you're probably going to be jonesing for your next fucking gum. But it seems to me it's one of those really interesting molecules where if you're clever about it and you wanted to get its cognitive enhancing, anti-inflammatory, and a myriad of other effects which we'll talk about, it could be an interesting little molecule for you to examine.
Or biohack.
A biohack, exactly. It's essentially a biohack. So just to confirm, I'm not talking about going out and smoking or vaping. But if you can find a clean source of nicotine and you did your research and you're very sensible about it, it seems like there might be some benefits which we'll delve into a bit here. So
those slow release forms like gums, toothpicks known in Australia, etc. They seem to be less addictive.
Yes.
Help people quit, give you those kind of things. So it seems like a fair benefit.
So I think if you have a cigarette or a vape, it hits your brain immediately and you get like a massive dopamine rush.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people commonly get addicted to.
Yeah.
And also in cigarette smoke, there are other compounds which can make it even more rewarding. They talk about the dopamine reward pathways. They add other chemicals into it. I think one of them is like ammonia and some other horrible things, and it does stuff to make the nicotine even more fast.
Yeah, right.
That big rush which people chase. But some of your slower forms seem to be quite non-addictive, and there's been a lot of studies where they've used patches, slow absorption patches, and no one reports any signs of addiction or anything like that. So.
Because some of the notes that I picked up here was that the nicotine binds only to receptors called nicotine acetylcholine receptors.
Yep.
And there's lots of those different types of receptors for different tissues.
Yes.
So that means that the
pretty much
nicotine...
every organ in your body has nicotinic acetylcholine receptors.
Yep. And each receptor creates a different effect within that tissue. Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about your brain... the molecule, the nicotine binds to a subtype of receptor. So you've got all these receptors in every type of tissue you got. Then you've got subtypes of receptors.
Yes. So you've got like alpha 3, alpha 4, alpha 5, alpha 6, alpha 7, beta, all of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So in your brain, it's alpha 4, beta 2 is what it's called.
Yep.
And so that nicotine binds to that, and the side effect of that is things like an increase or triggers a release of dopamine.
Yep.
Which is your feel good.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that's why people have a durry and
oh,
that feels good.
That's the stuff.
yeah. But I guess unfortunately they're getting it through a cigarette means.
Yes.
But I also read somewhere that increases the release of dopamine, but decreases the release of GABA, which is so you pretty much, if you think about your dopamine accelerator and brake.
Yep.
So your accelerator's going down and your brake's coming off with the decrease.
Stuff's doing both.
In GABA, So
exactly.
Really pumping that dopamine.
Yeah. And potentiated by coffee.
Yeah, right.
So like, see a lot of smokers like to have coffee and a cigarette.
Yeah, right.
It's a big,
big combo.
It's quite a big rush.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of writers and stuff like that, creative people use it as a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you've also got your increase in metabolism and decrease in appetite.
Yeah.
So it can lead to weight loss.
It absolutely does.
Which is why a lot of people
lead to weight loss, and they tried to sort of suppress that a bit because they didn't want women to smoke.
Yep.
But in all the studies, it suppresses your desire to eat.
Yeah.
And also increases your metabolism.
Yeah. So I think we just need to really make it clear that when we're talking about consuming nicotine, we're not talking about having a cigarette.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
that would be fucking stupid.
Yeah,
that would be the worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably negating every little health benefit that nicotine can provide.
Everything we've ever spoken about, if you go and buy a pack of smokes, it's all out the window.
Yeah. We're talking about ingesting a pure form of nicotine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And then there are addictive properties to that, even the purest form of nicotine can become quite addictive because of that dopamine release.
Some people are immune to it, so there are genetic variations where some people just don't ever have a nicotine addiction. And then there are some people who are quite prone to it. So like people with mental health issues are quite prone to being smokers. I think if you're schizophrenic, like 60% of schizophrenics smoke, and something like 40% of people with major depression smoke. And the reason is that, one of the reasons is that nicotine is a really good mood enhancer. So they probably chase that feeling of not feeling so down, not feeling so scattered. And there's these really interesting studies where they go into like psych hospitals, and a lot of psych hospitals actually encourage nicotine consumption or smoking because they actually see the benefit of it. But if people
encourage smoking,
crazy, right? Crazy.
Surely there's another way.
There's another way, exactly.
Patch.
Give them a patch or something.
10 patches.
But if someone in a psych hospital is a smoker, they have to increase. So if they've got a baseline level of medication, like antipsychotic medication, and it's at, their baseline, if they smoke cigarettes, they have to increase it from the baseline because cigarettes actually can antagonise the effect of those medications.
Yeah, right.
But if they don't smoke cigarettes but they use nicotine, they can drop the dose. So it actually has like a synergistic effect, which actually helps. Yeah,
right.
So it's a very interesting molecule, but it's definitely a very potent mood enhancer.
Yeah, and that got me thinking about how when teenagers having a bit of trouble during their period, say mum and dad are divorced or something, and they're going through that peer pressure sort of time, and some kids have a cigarette, they start smoking, and so you sort of think, well, they're starting to smoke because it's giving them that dopamine feel good feel.
Makes them feel good.
When the rest of their life around them is making them feel bad.
There's got to be, you're right. There's got to be something more to it than just being rebellious.
Yeah.
Because now our kids know, but you still see a lot of teenagers getting into it.
Yeah, especially something as horrible as smoking.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone picks up their first cigarette and goes, "This is great.
Yeah.
I want to do this the rest of my life."
But you sort of can remember from school, the kids that started smoking were the ones that had some issues at home, or they come from a broken family or something like that.
Yep.
They didn't really have any sport outlets or anything.
Yep.
So it's interesting.
But it definitely has mood stabilising, mood enhancing effects.
Yeah.
So that's one of its, interesting.
And what about like long term conditions, sort of like diseases and
so let me list
syndromes?
Off, I'm going to list off a few things here that helps with, and then maybe we can dig into a few of them. So it's definitely neuroprotective.
Yeah.
So it reduces inflammation in your brain, and it probably plays a role in reducing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So get this: if you're a cigarette smoker, again, we don't condone smoking, don't go and smoke, you've got a 40% less chance of getting Parkinson's disease. That's if you're a smoker.
Is that because you don't make it to that age?
That's because they're all dead.
Yeah.
No, I have heard that before.
40% reduced chance.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's disease seems to be reduced again in smoking. So it's really hard, right, to go through all the literature, and I've done heaps of this because this has really sparked my interest. It's really hard to divide smoking and nicotine.
Yeah.
Almost every study talks about them like interchangeably.
Yeah.
So the title of a study might be Nicotine's anti and pro-inflammatory effects, because it can do both in certain situations. Then they seem to interchangeably use nicotine and tobacco smoke.
Yeah.
It's like, it's actually not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some of the things that helps with, so neuroprotective, mood enhancing, can assist with exercise, like strength and endurance. Definitely helps with motivation, cognition, memory, focus, drive, attention. Looks like it probably helps with energy production, NAD production from your mitochondria.
Yeah, right.
Definitely helps with, or seems to help with mitochondrial uncoupling, so brown fat thermogenesis, which is associated with weight loss.
Yeah.
There seems to certainly be some sort of link with reducing the severity of COVID. It actually reduces the cytokine storm in COVID.
Yeah, right.
This is a really interesting one.
You mentioned
This is
something
super
about that
interesting.
earlier.
We're going to dig into this later, and there's some really interesting studies about this. It has both anti and pro-inflammatory effects, but it mostly seems to, in lower sensible doses, be quite anti-inflammatory.
Yeah,
So it's good with things like arthritis, food allergies, skin conditions, a whole bunch of different things. It's an aromatase inhibitor, really good for guys, so it stops the conversion of testosterone to estrogen.
Yeah.
So if you're a soy boy and you love your soy burgers and you're worried about your man boobs, it can assist a little bit with shrinking your bust.
Yeah.
And all the benefits for a man and a woman that come with having healthy testosterone levels. It assists with the end stages of sepsis, because again, that's a massive inflammatory storm where you get that cytokine type storm.
Yeah.
So people with sepsis. What else? There was one else I wanted to. Oh, and long COVID. So there's some really interesting, not only acute COVID, but long COVID seems to be benefited by not smoking, but nicotine use.
Are there any
got to do with the binding of certain toxins to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors? I can show you guys about that later.
So basically an anti-inflammatory, a neural protector.
Yep.
Possibly in immune enhancer a little bit. I mean, if you're reducing inflammation, it can also.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of studies that talk about immune enhancement. Yep. So,
any major side effects or like contraindications? What people shouldn't use it?
Most definitely. Don't think about using it if you're pregnant or if you're breastfeeding. That goes probably almost without saying.
Yeah. Male
Don't
or
use
female.
it if you have cancer. If you have cancer, it can promote the spread of it.
Yeah.
but it won't cause cancer. But if you have it, so it does stuff with angiogenesis, like the making of new blood vessels.
Yeah.
So it can encourage the spread of cancer.
So that was the major one that I saw was,
Yep.
yeah.
In high doses, but not low doses, it can give you gingivitis. In high doses, really high, it can make your hair fall out and make males not be able to get as harder erections. Probably something you want to stay away from in very high doses.
Yeah, you want it to be hard, don't you?
And there's pretty good evidence to say that kids under about 25 probably should stay away from it because your brain is still developing at that stage. And when you're quite young and your brain is more plastic, it can make you more susceptible to becoming addicted to nicotine later down the track. Whereas if you're a fully formed adult and you don't really have an addictive personality and you've got good sort of, what's the word, like, boundaries, and you use it in a sensible way, it's probably reasonably safe.
So to protecting the brain against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all that, is it obviously has an effect on your myelin sheath and your neural activity and all that sort of thing.
Speaking of myelin sheath, there's a use for it in MS.
Oh yeah.
So I've got about 20 different studies here that I've referenced.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting ones that I've referenced, if people want to go and look at it, it's called Nicotine in Inflammatory Diseases, Anti-Inflammatory and Pro-Inflammatory Effects. It's a reasonably recent article, so it came out in got the PDF. It was like 2022 or 2023 or something, very recent. February 2022.
Yeah.
And it came out in an immunology journal.
Ooh.
But some of the
2022
things...
February, they would have had nothing else to talk about in immunology at that time. No.
Well, it was massively interesting in the early stages of COVID.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out a bit more about that, mate.
Because that cytokine storm... So in COVID, like in Parkinson's, they spoke earlier about this smoker's paradox, where smokers should have been more affected by COVID, and in fact in certain populations were less affected by COVID.
Ooh.
So people started scratching their head going, it's a respiratory disease.
Yeah.
These smokers should have poorer respiratory health and outcomes, but they seem to be doing better. So what's happening here? So a lot of studies started to look at nicotine, and they seem to find that there was it sort of influenced that cytokine storm a little bit with some of us. So within your cholinergic nervous system, there's a cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway which this seems to activate.
Yeah, right.
So obviously when you get a cytokine storm, that's a massive pro-inflammatory storm, and that seems to quell that a little bit. So that was one of the interesting things. But so in this article, it talks about a whole bunch of things, talks about its role in inflammation. So helpful for inflammatory bowel disease, arthritis, oral diseases, skin diseases, multiple sclerosis, sepsis, endotoxemia, acute pancreatitis. How's this one? Myocarditis. There's a whole paragraph on this, anti-inflammatory effect of nicotine on myocarditis. I'm not going to read it out because it's in speak that won't be compatible with this podcast, but you can go and read it if you want. I've given you the name of the study if you want to go and read it.
Yeah, right.
Very interesting. So, I guess that's why we're having a chat about it today, just to dig into some of this interesting stuff.
I'm interested when you mentioned that Ben Greenfield uses it as a pre-workout stimulant.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind giving that a crack.
Yeah.
To see what impact that has on me pre-workout.
Well, it might be good those days that you aren't motivated to get in there. You have those
So I think it
days
definitely gives you motivation and drive.
Yeah.
Because you get that dopamine.
Yeah.
It's associated with getting tasks done. And, single pointed focus and all that sort of stuff. So
it would be used.
Maybe days when you're sort of you're not feeling fuck, I don't want to get in the gym, or I don't want to do whatever.
Give it a go.
Yeah, a bit extra focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to go a patch, wouldn't you? Really?
Yeah.
Or
patch
oral
gum
spray.
Or something. Yeah.
The only drama with the patch is they deliver quite a bit.
Do they?
Because they're designed to deliver it over either 16 or 24 hours. I think the lowest patch you can get in Australia is like 7 milligrams.
Right.
I think most of these guys are talking about like 1 to 2 milligrams.
Oh, okay, right. So the patches are pretty much for your cigarette addicts who need to come off.
A lot of the long COVID stuff, they used patches because they are trying to keep like a high a higher dose of nicotine in your blood sort of all the time to try and flush things out of those receptors that are stuck on there. So if you have like a bit of spike protein or a bit of toxin or whatever stuck on some of those receptors, the nicotine will bind to that, flushing out the thing that's stuck on there, and then your immune system will go and clean it up. But I think Greenfield uses like a spray or gum or something like that, just as a one-off, like a quicker, because then you just have like 1 milligram kind of thing rather than committing to.
Be interesting to know what the other ingredients are of the gum.
Yeah, I think they definitely have like some artificial sweeteners and stuff in them.
Yeah, I guess every now and then it's not gonna hurt you if you're having it just randomly, you know.
Well, that's what I was sort of alluding to there. If you're lacking motivation, you like to get in the gym, it might be good to use once every now and then to give you that little boost to get in there.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't want to use it every day. I'm not sure. I mean, you might get a little bit addicted, but if you used it as a bit of a hack to motivate yourself and get in the gym.
So you can just go down to the local chemist and grab.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Do you need a prescription, or do you need to go see the GP? And he says
you can buy the replacement things at Coles on the checkout.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or you can go to the chemist and just buy that Nicorette brand.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Gum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just find out how much. So it comes in 2 milligrams or 4 milligrams in the gum that you can get down the chemist.
Because I think they say 2 milligrams is the amount that you get from a cigarette. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah. I think it seems to vary
it's
depending on what strength cigarettes, and I don't know, I've never been huge into the smoking game,
super
but
maxi cigarette.
I think you can have
Yeah.
sort of a lot or a little. But yeah, I think that's roughly.
Yeah.
You know, for a smoking cessation, I think people use like one piece of gum, like they'd use a cigarette or something like that.
Yeah, well, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If the gum's 2 milligrams, that's how much you get from a cigarette, and it's kind of giving you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're even talking about having less, mate, like those health gurus are talking about like 1 milligram.
Yep, so you can buy a spray which is 1 milligram.
Yep.
I think you can maybe buy a 1 milligram gum, possibly. I think overseas you can get like 1 milligram toothpicks. They're pretty clean because it's literally just a toothpick that's dipped in, a bit of nicotine with some flavouring. They put like
mint or something,
mint, or they do like
cinnamon,
like
I think.
bourbon or cinnamon or what, whatever your taste may be.
Yeah. So we discussed nootropics previously. Would this be classed as a nootropic?
100%. Yeah, quite a powerful one. Yeah. I've seen quite a lot of people like compare it to like some pretty high, like hardcore stimulants. Like you heard of modafinil?
Yeah.
Yeah, they reckon
that's the
caffeine and
smart
nicotine
drug.
is equivalent to modafinil in terms of its cognitive enhancing effects. And if they look at both rats and humans, definitely seems to help with like focus and cognition.
Yeah.
But it also makes your brain more plastic. So I don't know if you guys listened to a Huberman one
that was
talking about
recently.
nicotine.
Yep.
And he has this famous story, he's told it on heaps of different podcasts, of this professor goes into the guy's office and he's chewing on nicotine gum. And he's like, what are you doing? He said, this promotes neuroplasticity. So, you're going to make new connections in your brain, have more creative thought. And I guess Peter Attia talks about the pluses and minuses of using something like nicotine, and he uses the analogy like, are you stopping on the road to pick up a piece of gold or a 1 cent piece, and are you going to get hit by a tricycle or a truck? So in other words, everything has some consequences, but does the good outweigh the bad?
Yeah.
You're stopping to pick up a gold bar and a little kid might hit you on a tricycle, or you're stopping to pick up something that's worth nothing and a road train's going to slam and you're going to get killed, sort of thing. So I don't know. It's very compelling for me.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to do with the information or whatever, but
give it a go.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like as we've said 1,000 times, smoking's bad, but maybe nicotine is not so bad. And I just find it very interesting that the government is banning access to it in Australia. Sure, you'll still be able to get it from your pharmaceutical companies, but you won't be able to access the actual molecule yourself. So I think our friends, Johnson & Johnson or Bayer or whatever, probably make all the nicotine replacement things at great cost.
Yeah.
Because nicotine in its pure form is very cheap.
Yeah, well, I guess extracting it from a plant.
Yeah, I think it's very, very little. So
So just looking at the Nicorette brand gum ingredients, the active ingredient is 2 milligrams of nicotine.
Yep. Do they make a 1 milligram one?
Nah. Not even the spray. The spray comes in like, I think it was 13 milligrams. It's quite a heavy.
No, they definitely do a 1 milligram spray.
Do they?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The inactive ingredients, flavours, glycerin, gum-based sodium carbonate, sorbitol. So
Some people will probably lose their mind over this sorbitol and stuff like that a little bit, like some of the artificial sweeteners people don't like, but
yeah. But really, they're not that bad.
it's probably not going to immediately kill you.
No. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. Be interesting to give it a go.
Yeah.
I've never ever considered it, mate. You've brought something to me that I've
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was young and dumb, I smoked cigarettes, like a lot of people. Not regularly, I wasn't a smoker, but I had been exposed to cigarettes.
Yeah.
I never particularly enjoyed them. I never particularly picked it up as a thing that I wanted to make part of my life. And since then, I'd never thought about nicotine, tobacco products.
Yeah.
But then it just started popping up in my little sphere of people I listened to.
Yeah, talked about it a bit.
Yeah.
I said, fucking Peter Attia's talking about nicotine. What are you doing, you maniac?
Yeah.
And then so I started Googling it. The more you Google it, the more you start. Greenfield's a bit of a...
He's out there.
He's pretty out there. There's no surprise. Greenfield gets into the nicotine, helps him in the gym and helps him, whatever. But then the more and more I searched, I just kept finding these little breadcrumbs. And I mean, we can link some of these studies in the show notes. I can flick them to you if you want. And people can have a link to some of these interesting reads. It seems to help with myocarditis, seems to help with long COVID, seems to help with not getting COVID, because one of the things that the SARS-CoV-2 virus actually binds to is in nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. So if you can actually keep those flooded with nicotine, it'll get in through other receptors as well, but it could lessen your viral load.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a few...
Well,
Very interesting concept.
Nicorette's Quick Mist spray, it says here it contains nicotine 13.6 milligrams per millilitres.
Yeah, but it might not spray.
Probably needs to
So
be
that's
more
that's
because
the
it's an
contents
aerosol.
in the whole bottle, you reckon?
Something like that, yeah.
It's got 150 sprays, so I guess you'd have to work out what you're getting per spray.
Yeah, I think I'm...
Sorry, mate,
certain
you're
they
right.
deliver
Nicotine, 1 milligram per spray.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That'd probably be, if you wanted to try it out as a biohack before a workout, that would probably be your fastest. Well, it's called Nicorette Quick Mist Smart Track. Nicotine 1 milligram per spray. I guess taking it as a spray orally would be a faster absorption.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything absorbed through your mucosa goes in pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it's a very small dose as well. So,
Yeah.
I'd say to people, don't buy one of those and start squirting 50 down your throat every day.
That's right. I'll go and get one.
long period of time.
Next time we do a workout, mate,
let's do
we'll have a little spray.
Yeah. I'd never really considered it. All the biohacking longevity experts talk about it.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, it's the cigarette thing.
Yeah, I've been so polarised to hate it.
Yeah. Well, it's been demonised, hasn't it? Nicotine is demonised
My
because
dad
it's
was a smoker when I
associated
was a kid
with...
and I hated it. I hated my dad smoking and I was always trying to get him to stop, and
Oh, same. Yeah.
this hatred of tobacco companies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Very interesting. We'll
yeah,
give it a
mate.
go.
Thanks, Smithy, for
Yeah,
bringing that to
That's awesome. Yeah.
to our attention, Because
Yeah,
it's
it's
something
an
that...
interesting one. If people are interested, there is a lot of literature out there. You've just got to sort through what is smoking literature and what is pure nicotine molecule literature. And there's millions of articles on tobacco related nicotine exposure, and there's few on pure nicotine, and there's even fewer on pure nicotine in humans. They do a lot of studies on rats. Here's one of the things: in animals, if they give them nicotine in their drinking water and they expose them to sunlight, they don't get it burnt.
Is that right?
Because an anti-inflammatory effect on the skin. So
No shit.
they have a control group of animals and a nicotine infused group of animals, and they get less sunburn.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be good. It's good for Australia.
Yeah.
And I guess if anyone wants more information, if they are listening to podcasts like Huberman or even Peter Attia's podcast...
Peter Attia's got a very good AMA on it. There's an interesting mob on YouTube. I think they're called the Global Forum on Nicotine or something like that. So it's a whole bunch of doctors who, I listened to a really fascinating one, and it was this doctor talking about giving elderly people with mild cognitive impairment nicotine and the dramatic improvement in their quality of life, cognition. I mean, if I was old, I'd be slapping on a bloody patch if I was starting to go a bit gaga, and what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
In conjunction with a lot of other things.
In conjunction, exactly right. I'm not
about,
saying this is like the only thing to do, but it could be one useful tool, especially if someone's quite sedentary and unable to do a lot of other things that take more effort. That might be a little thread you can pull to sort of help a little bit with like reducing the cognitive impairment. Like in Parkinson's, it seems to reduce tremor and help restore movement. In Alzheimer's, it seems to help with cognition. It seems to help to get rid of beta amyloid plaques, which are a big part of Alzheimer's dementia. Seems to reduce neuroinflammation. So, it's interesting. I don't think it's all demon. I think it's got bad sides. I think it's got good sides, but I think maybe used in the right way, the good possibly outweighs the bad, but maybe not.
And sorry, I'll miss that question, the answer to Jonesy's question about the nootropics. Is it considered a nootropic?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, cool.
You were researching
I was researching
patches and
gum.
Where I can get my hands on some nicotine.
Yeah. Already addicted.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's just worth having a go, see if it has any sort of effect.
Yeah.
Might help with my Tourette's. I read somewhere it helps with Tourette's syndrome.
Fuck! Ashley, go! A lot of people say it helps with ADHD.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Dunno. That's more like anecdotal reports.
Yeah.
People online and stuff like that.
Mate, I reckon we'll have to put those those studies that you've been referencing.
Yeah,
in
done
the
here.
notes, because
they
people might be interested in just looking up that research.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I wanted to find this one I had on exercise, but I don't. I've got so many bloody studies here.
Because if you just put in nicotine in a normal Google search, you're going to get your mainstream bullshit associated with cigarettes, pretty much, aren't you? You're not going to get...
It's really hard. I've spent a lot of time on this because I felt really like I had to really research this one to the nth degree because it's so divisive. Yeah. So I thought I really had to defend myself a little bit. So I really went down the rabbit hole on this. I spent a couple of weeks sort of researching it, which is why I apologise I haven't shut up for this whole...
No, mate, it's good.
It's good.
Here we go. Effect of transdermal nicotine on exercise endurance in men.
Yeah, what did they say about that?
I'll see if I can briefly give you guys the purpose of this study was to determine the effects of nicotine on cycling endurance, perception of exertion, range of physiological variables. We conclude that nicotine prolongs endurance by a central mechanism. Possible modes of action are suggested. I'm going to have to go right into the study to get the actual results.
Yeah, right. Well, they would have given a dosage of nicotine prior to that exercise bout.
These guys are wearing a patch.
Does it say how long?
Seems like they cycled for longer and at a higher intensity level for the same perceived exertion when they were using nicotine. So they had about a 17% increase over placebo on their power output on the bike for the nicotine group.
Yep.
A lot of those exercise science studies use RPE, don't they? Rate of perceived exertion.
Perceived exertion,
It's a bit of a subjective sort of marker. How are you feeling?
Yeah. And I guess if you're getting a massive dopamine hit, you're feeling woohoo!
Well, yeah, I mean that might be it.
Use VO2 max, cadence.
Well, cadence would be one that would be influenced by dopamine feeling better, can go harder. VO2 max.
There'd be a lot of variables to that though, like fitness levels, leg strength, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be going in all being the same sort of. I don't know if they used elite.
Yeah, I think maybe they average it across groups. Yeah. And they get two groups that are fairly similar in their VO2 max ratings and stuff like that, and then possibly
abilities and then they just sort of But that would be interesting to dive into that one.
Yeah. Yeah, these studies are a bit of hard work sometimes. You've got to cut through all the jargon and they use a lot of abbreviations. They use a lot of three-letter acronyms. What does that one mean? And they go back and work that out. And they
abbreviate their own stuff.
Yeah, all the time.
And you don't know what that abbreviation is unless you read the introduction. Yeah. The very first time they use it, they abbreviate it and then they don't
Yeah.
talk about it again. You go, what does VROS mean? You know, that kind of,
Yeah.
for example. And then you got to go back and work out what it is.
All right, well, should we close it off and go out and have a smoke?
Yeah.
Where's my pipe gone?
Smoking a coffee.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah, but that was a very, very interesting topic. Like you say,
Just a
quite
bit of a different
controversial,
Yeah, very.
possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might be good to test it and come back and
Yeah,
see
you
in a
sort of
couple of
wonder
weeks.
why is it controversial though? It's a natural product. It's grown.
I think it's just being, but
It's just-
so's marijuana,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
But you know, I think being linked to cigarettes is
Yeah.
probably the
Yeah.
controversial factor,
Yeah.
and then it then being used in vape products
Yeah.
makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Addicting our teens and all that
Well-
sort of stuff, which is definitely bad.
And I guess that's what vape companies are doing, is they
Yeah.
know that it's an addictive compound. They are then using it in their vapes to get people
Yeah.
addicted, buy more. It's more of that,
Mm.
what we got rid of with cigarette smoking. They're now putting it into vapes, saying, well, vapes are, they're more, not more, they're better for you,
Yeah.
but are they?
They might go on fire in your pocket and burn a hole in your leg. But, you
Yeah,
know,
you seen the footage of those things?
Yeah.
They bloody explode every now and then.
yeah.
Jesus.
Well,
Yeah, mate. There's I saw a photo of this guy. Half his thigh was missing. It just blew up in his pocket.
Jeez.
And he got 3rd-degree burns and had to get skin grafts and shit.
but
Yeah.
they're everywhere. You know, like people use them, discard them. You walk down the side of the
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
half a dozen of them just thrown away. The packets are thrown away.
Yeah.
The rubbish that it's creating, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know they have whatever.
Yeah. The
it
new
is.
cigarette butt.
Yeah, and they're everywhere, and they get crushed by cars, and there's this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Plus you got lithium batteries in there as well, haven't you?
Back in my day, we used to have smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of doing and off we went.
Dirty cigarette butts everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seagulls going around with a cigarette butt in their mouth thinking it's a chip or something.
All right.
Get the good.
Let's get the air guitar, right? Yeah, it's been a
yeah.
while.
It has been
Yeah,
a
well,
while.
been a week. Yeah, since we've heard the air guitar.
Well, just in
but-
general.
Yeah, in general.
We're just building up to it, aren't we?
Yeah.
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 All right. Good work, lads. Good chats.
Thanks for that, Smitty. That was
Put
good
those in
info.
the show notes.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll
Flick
definitely
us an email.
link some stuff.
modernancestralman@gmail.com. Now we're back into it, and good stuff.
Air
See you
guitar.
next time.
Back in.